topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
You're listening to the ASQ Podcast for a transformational approach to life and leadership, blending soul wisdom with modern insight to create outer impact. All right.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the ASQ Podcast Live.
Yes. I have to say, nobody saw us, but when I hear this music, all I start doing is like, hey.
You getting feel like into back in Jamaica.
I do. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, thank you all for being here. First and foremost, we are so excited for this interview. Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorite people in the world.
Yes.
Equal.
Yes,
I've seen her, all the stuff, this amazing thing that she has done and the impact that she's had on my life. So I'm going to give it up to you. So could you introduce our guest for today?
I know. I'm so excited about this, actually. All right. So let me get started. All right. So today we are honored to welcome Mindi Fetterman, one of my favorite people, founder of the Inner Truth Project and president of the Florida Council Against Sexual Violence. A survivor, therapist, and visionary leader, Mindi has turned her own pain into purpose, creating safe spaces for survivors to lead or to heal, reclaim their truth, lead, and live empowered lives. Her story is one of courage, compassion, and transformation. Please join us in welcoming Mindi Fetterman to the ASQ Podcast Live. Super excited.
Can I just say that you two are my favorite people? You both said I was one of your faves. You're one of my faves. Times two, squared.
So excited. I know you get double, right?
You're like the double mint gum. You remember that? Double your pleasure.
Yes.
That's you guys.
I'm the minty. I'm the minty part. It is so good to see you. It's good. Thank you so much for being here. I know that you've been so busy with traveling and creating a new practice, establishing a new practice. So it is an honor to have you here. So thank you so much.
Always busy.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Of course.
Yes. Can't wait to have this discussion.
Yeah. So we always start right on that part of life, individual life, and the importance of going through our own personal transformation and our growth as individuals, right? And then on the later on down the episode, we talk about how you transform that into impact in our community and the world. So let's start with you. Let's talk about your personal transformation from the standpoint of what you've learned throughout your life and what was the catalyst to always wanting to grow and always wanting to become better and improve?
What was the catalyst and what have I learned? How long do we have?
This is the Cliff Notes. This is the Cliff Notes. Cliff
Note version. We'll invite you back on the long form later.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm going to tell you the catalyst, but I don't know that I can tell you so much what I've learned because I'm still learning. And I heard something the other day that you always should have something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. And I thought, that's brilliant. And part of just evolving and learning is finding that new little nugget of truth every single day. And part of my transformation, part of the catalyst was learning that I could still learn. Because I think so much of my early life was thinking that I wasn't capable of learning. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't have anything on the horizon. There was no future for me. I wasn't worthy. And so to know now today that I'm this open vessel and that the universe is sort of just all expansive, waiting to teach me, and I don't have any answers. And it's so exciting, right? The world is so exciting. Every single day is a gift. And I think that is such a huge transition from when you live as a victim and you think that the world is just a miserable place to living in your power and just knowing every single day is an opportunity for, I don't know, learning and growing. So that's something I'm still learning, that there's more to learn. But the catalyst for me really, I think, was, back when I was in my early 20s, I met the man who is now my husband, who, even though I said you guys are my favorite, he's really my favorite. You're my
Hopefully he's
favorite.
Listening.
He's my most favorite. And we started dating. I was really young. And he said to me, he was the first person really ever to say to me, you're smart, you're funny. And he just started listing all these positive attributes. And he didn't want anything in exchange. There was no ulterior motive. He just said he saw these things in me. And also, you're a really messed up person. He's like, I think you may have a drug problem. I think you may have an alcohol problem. I think you might have trauma that you have not ever addressed. I had never heard those words before. I had no idea what that meant. So that, I think, was the catalyst, to have somebody who saw something in myself that I didn't see or believe about myself, and also address that I had some serious, significant issues that needed attention. And he was supporting me along that journey. And so that was the beginning for me.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing to have somebody who loves you and doesn't want anything in return, and calls you out for your shit, right? Like, lets you know this is what needs to be addressed, or this is what I think is the problem. Yeah. But not wanting anything in return. I think that's beautiful.
Well, at least not until like the second date. Then you wanted something. We don't have to talk about that.
We don't have to talk.
There are children listening.
So a question for you, right? Because when you first hear that, it kind of like, it's like the cartoon moment when your head just starts bobbling all over the place. When did you start really beginning to like internalize that and say, yeah, he's right. I'm smart. I'm capable. I could do something. When did that really begin? Because sometimes the moment comes and somebody brings it up to our attention, but it doesn't happen right away. We don't begin to believe that. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey to actually begin to believe that?
Last week. Oh gosh, that too, that is an ongoing thing. And one of the things that I love is being able to be so incredibly open and vulnerable. And I get asked to speak quite often about my work and my transformation from being a victim of sexual violence into like whatever this is that I'm doing. But it still is an everyday process, right? Like, I still wake up some days thinking like, I can't do what I'm doing. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. Right. So I don't know that there was actually a time when it actually switched. I think it's still an everyday process, but I do know that along the way, there was more that I could look back on and say, where's the proof that I'm no good? There was less and less proof of the negative and more proof of the positive. And so on the days when I wake up and I'm not feeling good about myself, or I'm having doubts, or I'm having insecurities, I always go, look at the proof. Where are the facts? And the facts show me the opposite. The facts show me that I am indeed smart. I am indeed capable. I am indeed a good person, right? And so the more I continued to do the work early on in my recovery and in my trauma work, all the positives started adding up. So when I was looking in the rearview mirror, all I saw was the work that I was doing. And that's when it started to become my reality.
Can I ask you a question for people who are listening, who hear what you say and they're like, wow, that's amazing. But how is it that an individual asks themselves that question, that where's the proof? Like, where does that question come from somebody who's listening and going through a difficult time and really beating themselves up? How does that question come to you?
Well, I think that it's not something that we intrinsically ask ourselves. And I think it's really important to know that someone like myself who, I feel very capable and strong today, I don't do any of this work on my own. I didn't get here on my own. Somebody else asked me to check the facts, right? My husband, my therapist, my sponsor, my supporters, my friends, they always said, where is the evidence to support all the negative things that you're saying about yourself? So it was other people who have constantly had me check the information, look in the mirror, check for the facts. I didn't come up with that on my own. And that's what I always ask people, when they're going through their litany of excuses and negative, attributes and the can'ts and the how comes and all the negatives. I say, well, where's the evidence that supports that? Like, let's look at the reality. And when someone else asks the question and hold your feet to the fire, then sometimes you have a choice. Do you want to stay in that illusion or disillusion of the negative that you're creating, or do you want to choose to look at something different, which is the reality that you actually can be something more than what you're only seeing?
Right. Good.
One of the beautiful things that you mentioned is, number one, the singular point in which somebody brought up, you are this, but then you're now talking about community, right? And those allies and those people around you that are pivotal. Can you talk from the standpoint of the importance of being open to those individuals and not pushing them away? Because we have a lot of them in our lives, but because of our negative experiences, our ACEs and things like that, we tend to push them away. Why is it so pivotal and important to have that community, to have that group?
Yeah, well, that's such a good question, Omar. So first of all, I'll never forget, someone telling me, I didn't grow up having people that I could really trust. And then when I first got into my own trauma recovery and in my own recovery from drugs and alcohol, you're immediately surrounded by support, right? If you choose to go the way that I did. And I did a lot of 12-step work and was in recovery groups and that kind of thing. So you're automatically around people and you sort of are expected to subscribe to the community model. And also there's a lot of faith talk, whatever your higher power looks like, but to subscribe to something bigger than yourself. So there's a lot of turning over trust. And I struggled with that because I was, abused from a very early age. So I didn't have that sort of that piece, that puzzle piece for the, automatic trust was missing. And I had somebody say to me, why would you trust anybody? It's okay that you don't. Just keep showing up until it becomes more comfortable for you. And it was like, oh, okay, I had permission to just be involved because it was better than the alternative of sitting alone in my crap. So just keep showing up where there are people. You're not expected to trust them. Eventually you will.
Yeah.
And so I just started to learn that it was more comfortable to learn from other people, to be around other people than it was to be by myself. And then slowly but surely, I started to learn that I could connect and trust some people. And then my community started to build. It's very organic. And I think that when we talk to people who are looking to us as advocates, we have to be really careful to not just say, you just got to find somebody to trust. You just got to go out and find your people. It doesn't work that way. Why should somebody who has ACEs or somebody who's had, all of these traumatic things, why should they trust anybody? They shouldn't. So I think giving them that permission that you don't have to trust anybody, but the way that you've been doing it isn't working for you, which is just isolating, being alone, right? So why not just give it a try? Just show up and see how it goes for you. Because the magic is really being around other people and listening to their experiences and then finding that common thread where you see the commonality of the struggle and the recovery.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You just literally just said what ASQ is all about. This is exactly what we do on our podcast, is bring people together so that we can find commonality
and listen
to people, you know, and be there for people. So I love that.
Yeah. Before we go into the things that you have built and all that stuff, can you talk to me? And this is one of the things that fascinates me about life, right? That most of the time our lives unfold, right? Like you said, I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still discovering all these different aspects of life, you know? Can you talk about the importance of looking at life as an unfoldment rather than a destination to arrive at?
I should have known your questions were going to throw me. Really.
You spent enough time around me, but you know.
Do you need me to bring it down practically? You said it at the beginning of the episode. You're always learning, you're always evolving, right? And so I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. How can we start looking at life in that way rather that is like, I got to get from here to here, and this is what my destination is like?
So I recently got trained in a really remarkable type of therapy called brain spotting. Okay. And it's a technique that I absolutely love. And I was really, really fortunate to get to train under the founder of brain spotting. And one of the things that he says is that, and you know, he's incredible. And he said, you know, even with all my experience and all of my, you know, my PhD and all my whatever, I still never start a session with any assumptions that I know this client or what their experience is. And so the way that he teaches his technique is to his practitioners, when you meet a client, even if on paper they're like, oh, this is exactly the same scenario as the client I just saw, you treat each and every client as a comet, a brand new comet, and you are the tail of the comet. So you don't go in leading them, you go in following them, like the tail of a comet. And I just thought that was so humbling and so brilliant, but also it's sort of the answer to your question, right? Yeah. We cannot really put our feet on the ground every single day with the understanding, like, I know what today is going to be, right? We don't even know what the damn weather's going to be.
Exactly. Especially where we live, right?
Right. I mean, we have all these predictors on our phone, and we check, you know, we think we know, we have our assumptions, but it never is what we think. Yeah. So just continuing to be surprised. And, you know, I think it's important for people to stay curious. If you're struggling with hope, that's okay. But as long as you always have curiosity and you stay open and you don't have the assumption that you have all the answers, that keeps you moving forward, right? And then you never know what's going to be right around the corner, who you're going to meet, or who you're going to meet that's going to connect you to another person or another experience. And now I have no idea where I'm going with what I'm saying. Did I answer your question?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, because it boils down to that idea that we are so conditioned to think of life as this is success looks like this. And if I do this, I'm successful. But, you know, this approach to life of being able to see the unfoldment, not always having the answer, but staying curious, staying open to possibilities. You know, it's a very important aspect. I mean, I've seen it in the things that you've done. And even in this new modality that you're learning, it's the same process. You know, we can't assume that things are always going to be the way we want them to be.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that I teach my clients, I do a lot of workshops on, is boundaries. And you can have very fluid boundaries and you can have very concrete boundaries. But I tell everybody, even your concrete boundaries are sometimes going to be porous because things change, and you just cannot be this stoic, you know, unmoving, stuck person. Things always change in life. Your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, everything is going to constantly change. So even though you have the idea that you've set a boundary, be prepared you are in the driver's seat of all the things. So at any given moment, you can change your course. And I think that's where, the curiosity and staying open comes in, because you could throw it all out the window and go somewhere completely different at any given moment. And that's kind of the beauty of being human on this planet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
No,
true.
that's just beautiful, beautiful. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to take a short commercial break. But when we come back, I want to really talk about your impact on the culture, or the impact on survivors of sexual abuse, but also your impact on the people, the individuals that you work with as a therapist. We're going to get into that when we come back right after this.
You're listening to the ASQ Podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Too many of us chase clarity but feel scattered. What if your challenge isn't failure, but the threshold before expansion? Each month, we gather live for a transformational webinar where contraction becomes coherence. Register today and receive your Soul GPS journal. Begin your journey within. Scan the QR code or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we need one platform to do it all: funnels, emails, forms, and automations. That's why we run our entire ecosystem on Go High Level. It is the tool that saves us time and builds real connections with our audience. We believe in it, we use it, and we recommend it. Start your free trial through our affiliate link today.
We don't just find podcast guests, we find aligned voices. That's why ASQ uses Podmatch to connect with leaders and creators worldwide. It's how we've built relationships that shape life and culture. If you want meaningful conversations, join through our affiliate link today or scan the QR code. Find your match on Podmatch.
Leaders are burning out. Teams are disengaged. Cultures are fragmenting. ASQ Empowerment transforms leadership and culture from the inside out. Our Coherence Quest bridges ancient wisdom with modern neuroscience, helping organizations align, adapt, and thrive. Start with an organizational snapshot assessment. So, visit now at asqempowerment.com and schedule your briefing today. ASQ Empowerment. Lead your life. Shape your culture. Begin within.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ Podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
All right, welcome back with Mindi Fetterman here. Hi.
Can you say my last name the same way you say yours?
Isn't that awesome?
Fetterman.
Fetterman. There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect.
One of the things that we talk about at ASQ, right, is that we talk about through life, through our challenges, the things that we overcome, we eventually find what we call our point of expression, right, which is the way that we contribute to the world based on our experiences and the things that we've learned from those experiences. Tell us a little bit about starting ITP, the Inner Truth Project, and the process of that. Again, embodying the lessons that you've learned and then being able to give back to the community.
So I love talking about the Inner Truth Project, and it was a labor of love, and I started it back in 2012, and it was such an organic process. It really came from my own experience of trying to find community, like we were speaking about before, for my own continued healing from sexual abuse and rape. So I had moved to Florida from where I was living in North Carolina. In North Carolina, I had a really great support group that I was attending for survivors of sexual abuse. And when I came to Florida, I couldn't find anything like that, or at least in our area. And I also had been going to AA and NA. So I was really a firm believer of that model of the 12-step group, and also just the safe circles and sharing. So I was really looking for something like that. Couldn't find it. And I was working full time. I was in school. I was in graduate school, and I was raising my son. And I also was not seeing things in the community that were supportive of survivors. So, at the time, I felt like our community was so incredibly rich with resources for every other issue, every social injustice. We had all kinds of resources. But when I would go out and ask, was there anything for survivors of sexual violence, I was really met with, eyes popping out of the head, like, "Ooh, we don't talk about that," right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so you're basically saying that you're rejecting me because I'm a rape survivor, I'm a sexual abuse survivor, and right now the thing I'm seeing on your face as I'm talking about it is shame and disgust, which I'm taking as you're saying that I'm shameful and I'm disgusting, and I'm not having that. So it was really the fuel to build this thing in the community that wasn't existing, and also to say we need a place where people can know that there are others like them, because we are not to be silenced. We have nothing to be ashamed of. And so that was really the impetus to get it started. And I started with just renting a room from the Boys and Girls Club, which is, I think, how you and I back in the day maybe met. And I just put an ad in the paper, support group. And I had no idea what I was doing. And slowly people started to show up, and things were weird, but they were going. And then we had a guy that showed up, and all hell broke loose because we had no rules in place, right? And slowly we just realized, okay, you know what? We need very specific guidelines for our groups, and maybe we should have it in a place that's a little more secluded, where there aren't kids running around, that kind of thing. So then I started looking for my own place. That's another whole long story, but the heavens answered. I found a location, and the gentleman who owned the building said to me, "What is your plan?" And I said, I don't have a plan. I'm just a survivor, and I want to have a space for other survivors. And he said, "I love it. I'll give it to you for 11 months for free. Figure it out."
Amazing.
And then I just got my butt into gear, and I started going out into the community and just getting in people's faces and saying, "I'm a rape survivor. I'm going to help other rape survivors." And I think I just became immune to the silence, from the response, and I was just destined to make it happen. And decided, we needed a board, we needed to fundraise, we needed furniture, all the things. And before you knew it, 11 months was up, and we had everything in place. And then people were coming out of the woodwork. And then it was really up to them. What do you want? And they were telling us, we want to be able to have meals together. We want to be able to have our kids here. We want to be able to talk about, our marriages and have our partners here. So it really was so organic, and it became a survivor-led organization so early. But that whole time I was out in the community, spreading the word, talking to other nonprofits, talking to policymakers, talking to city officials, right? Really explaining to them my own story. And before I knew it, it just sort of snowballed.
No.
Amazing.
What did you say to, and what have you seen about yourself, but also about the fact that you were the only one in the community that was able to see the gap? That you were the only person that really saw the need and saw the gap. There are many people in the community, and we know that from experience that have experienced the same thing, have gone through similar situations. How do you attribute that? To what do you attribute that? And what was the lesson about starting something where nobody else saw it?
I don't know why it was me. I don't know, but I'm really, I'm grateful that was my calling. And I do know that I have the gift of gab, and that I was not afraid to talk about my own experience. I wasn't afraid to get in front of whoever I needed to and talk about my own trauma. And it's not because I'm special. It's not because I'm strong. It's not because I'm brave. And I have been told all those things. I've been called all those things. But I think it was just because I was so determined to make this happen. I have, at my core, social justice is what I stand for. Equity and equality and support for everybody in the community. And it touched home for me. It was the one thing that I needed, and it didn't exist. And so I wasn't going to stand for that. And also, statistically, I know, and as you do, it's 1 in 4 women before the age of 18. For men, it's 1 in 6 that are going to be a victim of sexual violence before 18. So I was doing it for myself, but I also knew that I was doing it for so many other people in the community. And I also have a real problem, not just with injustice, but with the fallacy of we have such a great community, right? So I'm working with all of these youth organizations that say they care about kids. I'm working with other women's organizations saying that they want to empower women. I'm working with all of these other places. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're not willing to go to the root, where so many of the problems start with sexual trauma, not always, but a lot of it is because you're afraid to say rape, or you're afraid to say sexual abuse, then you don't really 100% believe in the people that you're serving. It's all going to be just a Band-Aid. So really, more than anything, I was just pissed off. and I don't know why it was me, but it was. And I certainly didn't do it by myself. I maybe started it, but I had so much support at the beginning. And then as it grew, I was able to bring in some amazing people to help it grow.
I don't know if I have a question here, but I do find it interesting because there are people who will act from that position of being angry, right? And they sort of, and they react, and I'm using that word because it can be reactive, right? In your case, you were pissed off. That's what you were, right? But you took that anger and frustration and you channeled it into something that you knew was necessary, that you knew was needed. Where do you think that came from? Like that sort of, I guess maybe a level of awareness to know I'm pissed about this. And in order to make a change, this is what I need to do, and sort of just move from that point. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm asking a good question, but
no, I mean, I think for me, honestly, I mean, it's my religion, it's my faith as a Jewish woman. It is the foundation of who I believe our people are, right? Like we have a saying, Tikkun Olam, which is repair the world. I've heard so many stories growing up about people in my family, in my history, being persecuted, and it's like we don't sit back and just take it and just let things happen, right? My father was a homosexual man, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, but I watched him struggle his whole life as being sort of an outcast. And no, I think just as an early child, it was instilled in me to sort of have these strong values. And values, I think, are important, but they have to be married with action. Otherwise, it's just sort of a nice idea. And I'm an action-oriented person. I am an activist at heart. I want to do action, and I want to see change. And quite often, I think, especially when you are somebody who's gone through trauma and then you're doing your personal work to get to the other side of that, you recognize that you need support, like I said earlier, but at the end of the day, the work comes down to you. And so that's not just in your personal journey, that's in your community as well. The things that you want to have done, the things that you want to see changed, that you have to be the one to get out there and get your hands and feet dirty
Mhm.
and dig deep and make the change.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, I'm glad that you brought that up, right? Because there's a certain level of our culture in which you're right. You know, we want the data, we want the nice shiny stuff, but to get down in the dirt and to actually create and take action on a daily basis becomes very challenging. Jesse and I read this book from a friend of ours. It's called A Language Older Than Words by Derek Jensen. And he talks about the correlation of sexual abuse with the inequality, the fear, all the damaging that does to our society. And we seldom don't want to talk about it, the destruction of our environment. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of taking action, right? When it is mandated of us from your religious standpoint, from the values that we decide, because it's only through our actions that things come about in order to change the damage that sexual abuse and the misuse of that energy has on every single one of us.
Well, I think that when you are victimized probably broadly, but specifically in a sexual violent way,
Yep.
your power is taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to truly begin to heal, to restore your power, you have to take action,
Yep.
whether it's verbally, physically, emotionally. You've got to restore that imbalance and have your power, right? And so it seems so congruent for me anyways, in order to have that power, is to take action physically and then to be in control of that story. If I'm a victim and I'm always talking about what somebody else did to me, then they're still telling that story.
Yes.
But once I get in front of that and I say, this is what I've chosen to do once something has already happened to me and it's making a positive impact in the community or for another survivor, and then sort of like putting that spiral into the community, right? Like the logo of the Inner Truth Project is one drop affects another, affects another, affects another, right? Then now I'm in control of the story. And that is giving me my power back, so that that person who has perpetrated against me no longer has any hold over me. Because we know the justice system doesn't always work in our favor. We don't often even know who our perpetrators are, or they are long dead, right? So how else can you restore that balance? How do you get your power? By putting it into action, by being in control of your story. And so often it is by actually doing.
Yeah. That's amazing. I have so many things that I'm gonna have to interview you on the long form.
I'll come back.
I know, yeah, for sure. You have to come back like 3 or 4 times. No, I was going to ask the question, but you kind of answered it already, so it sounds redundant, about how you take from your personal and get your, like, go through all the things that you went through in your personal life. You know, you're dealing with ACEs and stuff like that, and then bringing it into society and then claiming that voice. And you just basically, I was like, damn, she just took my question, but you just said it, because it's, how do you claim your power when you're allowing something else to say your story for you, or you're allowing somebody else to create that narrative. And so taking power over it is by you taking over that narrative. And I just think that's really beautiful. Of course, I know that about you already, but yeah, that's amazing.
From that standpoint of taking action as an individual, right? How does that translate into leadership, right? Whether it means leading our families, leading our community, leading society as a whole, because that is a very important aspect of being a leader, which is taking the action. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I love this question, and I love it specifically from you, because I will always remember a conversation that you and I had where you asked me about how to do something at work. Like, what is my method? I think you asked me.
Yes.
And I said, oh, Omar, I don't have a method. And it really is so much about my leadership style. Being a leader to me is about being authentic and transparent and having humility and humor, right? And sort of like the whole conversation we've been having this whole time is I don't have the answers. I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm just sort of showing up and doing my best and allowing myself to be present so that somebody else can be present too, and then they can be their best, right? So if I subscribe to a leadership style or a method, or I have like a 3-point program that I'm going to do, right? Then it goes back to what I was saying before, like having those strict boundaries, right? Or putting myself in a box, and I don't operate that way because I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly growing and I'm constantly changing. And I want someone else that is maybe looking at me as a leader to see that they too are going to continuously grow and change and be fluid. And just because I was one way yesterday, I might be completely different tomorrow. So I think as a leader, to continuously just be transparent and open, and I have a saying that I absolutely love, which is lift as you rise. Right? I'm continuing to grow and to rise, but I always want to bring people up with me, because it's not about me, it's about healing the entire community, right? So if you're better and the person behind you is better and the person behind them is better, that's how we collectively heal, which truly, in my opinion, is the only way that we ever combat violence, because there's not going to be, in my lifetime, I believe, a way to take down sexual perpetrators. But when we are stronger as a community, because each of us is doing our very best in our individual lives, that is how we restore the balance. And if it's starting with me, then all I can do is my very best today to just be open and transparent, and that really is my leadership style.
No, I remember that question. You did look at me just like that. Oh, Omar.
Oh, Omar. That's how I look at him too. Oh, Omar.
Oh, come on. So as we begin to just come to the end of the conversation, I just have 2 final questions for you. First, we're living in a world that is being transformed radically by technology, AI in particular. And I'm of the belief that the next evolution of human being has to do more with connection and connecting with one another, connecting with what are perceived, looking past our perceived differences and really look at the commonalities of who we are as humans. What are some of the words that you could tell people that have gone through trauma, are wanting to take action like you have, and want to create something? What kind of words of advisement or encouragement would you give to them within the framework of the need for them to express themselves in this changing time?
So I think that's a really important conversation and a great question, because the more connected we are, especially through social media, right, we have access to so much more information and so much more creativity, right? I'm constantly amazed. I'm like, oh, how did they do that? Or why didn't I think of that, right? And so as beautiful as the technology can be, it also can be really devastating when you see that somebody who has gone through something similar, possibly that you have, and then they're all of a sudden 5 years ahead of you, so it seems, in their recovery, or maybe they're out writing poetry, or maybe they're out giving presentations, and you are not. And that is perfectly okay. It is really important to not fall into the trap of comparing yourself to somebody else. And I actually just had this conversation with somebody who, when they were attacked by, they were assaulted by a neighbor, and all of her friends said, you need to report it. And then once you reported it, then you need to go to the sentencing hearing. You need to give your victim impact statement, all these things. And she was so overwhelmed, and she just kind of did all the things that were being told for her to do. And then her friends kept saying, it's so important that you do this so he doesn't do this to somebody else. And she had so much shame because she didn't want to do any of these things, but she felt like everyone was giving her this pressure. And so I said, listen, all you are responsible for doing, and really it's still your choice, is healing your own physical body and your own mental space. After sexual trauma, that's it. You're not responsible for making sure, and this is a little controversial, but you're not responsible for making sure that that perpetrator doesn't perpetrate again.
Yeah. Yep.
That perpetrator is responsible for not perpetrating again, right?
Correct.
You do not have to report. You do not have to give a victim impact statement. You do none of those things. If you choose to, that's awesome. But adding on top of the responsibility of taking care of yourself, the responsibility of everybody else, and doing it a certain way, and then giving a presentation, or now being an activist and going out and speaking in front of a crowd, or participating in an art exhibit, or a collective survivor, whatever. Like, no, you do not have to do that. And I think when we're so connected through social media and you see all the different ways that are possible to heal, it can be either very empowering and also overwhelming. So I think it's really important that people understand how you proceed after any sort of trauma is completely unique to you, and it is your timeline, and it is all okay, right? It could take you years, it could take you a month. It doesn't matter. It's all okay. And everybody does it differently. So comparing is really dangerous.
Excellent. Well,
trap is
Mindi, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, we're always going to be talking, but thank you for your insight. Thank you for the vulnerability. Thank you for teaching me so much about being in this domain and having the experiences that I've gained over the last 2 years on seeing that it's okay to be yourself, that it's okay to be a good man as I am, and with encouragement from you and the organization as a whole. So final question is, how do people get in touch with you and the services that you provide? I know that you're no longer at ITP in physically, right? Physically, but spiritually and emotionally and, strategically, but also tell us a little bit about your practice and how do people connect with you?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so proud of you guys. You're doing an amazing job. So thank you for having me on as your guest. And also, yes, I'm no longer the executive director of the Inner Truth Project, but of course, it is an amazing organization. So if someone's listening that is a survivor or has a loved one that is a survivor that could use their services, it's innertruthproject.org. I am now in private practice, so I provide individual therapy, and you can find me at realgroundedtherapy.com. That's my website, and it's got my email and contact information there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, Mindi, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. We'll see you next time. And everybody, we'll be back right after these brief commercials.
You're listening to the ASQ Podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Coming this December, A Soul's Quest, a transformational approach to life and leadership. A book that bridges science, wisdom, and lived experience so you can lead with coherence. Don't miss the launch. Join the waiting list today, scan the QR code, or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we believe every creative deserves a safe space to share. That's why we use and proudly recommend Gnostic TV. It's where your content won't be silenced and your vision can flourish. Sign up through our affiliate link and be part of this Freedom Center platform. Create boldly on Gnostic TV. Across boardrooms, nonprofits, and communities, too many leaders are quietly burning out. They know what's not working, but not how to turn inertia into momentum. That's where I come in. I help leaders, fathers, and organizations move from quiet crisis into coherence, so cultures can thrive from the inside out. Book me today at asqempowerment.com and bring coherence to your next event.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ Podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
All right. I mean, we're gonna have to be brief right now because
I know you're looking at my list.
I'm supposed to be timekeeping, but I'm doing a horrible job. So we're gonna be going over.
Be brief.
So real quick. I mean, this was an amazing conversation and so insightful in so many different levels, right?
Yeah.
So what stood out for you?
I think the if I had to pick from my very long list, I took a long list of notes here of all the things that I wanted to talk about in this segment. I think the one thing that I loved that Mindi shared is that she's still evolving, and that she's open to learning and open to the idea of I don't know everything. I don't know everything. I'm here just like you are. I'm learning, I'm evolving, I'm unfolding, which is the word that you used. And also the second thing that I liked is the question of what's the proof? What's the evidence?
Of
and
the
I
negative.
like that. Yeah. And I think that if we can come, because some of us don't have the support systems that we would like to have, but I think if we can even ask ourselves that question in the moment, which I know is difficult to do, but then of course we have people like Mindi and even ourselves to offer that support. What is the evidence that I am not good enough? What is the evidence that, you know what I mean? And those are the two things out of the 15 things that I wanted to share.
Yeah.
So
What stood out for me in addition to all those things was that idea that and we talk about finding your point of expression. And your point of expression is really your point of expression. You don't have to go out there and create something out of the need somebody else tells you. It's like you see the world in a very specific way, in a beautiful way, and it's creating. And that creating could be how you interact with your family, how you interact how you show up. Because one of the things that she continuously mentioned was that idea of this is how I want to show up. I want to show up with someone that is open. I want to show up with someone that takes action.
Right.
I want to show up with someone in that nature. It's like, how do you choose to show up? Again, we don't have to save the world. That is not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to be that, like you mentioned, like the logo of the ITP, is that one drop that trickles out there. And then I go back to the Cloud Atlas question, what is an ocean but a multitude of drops, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So those things were the ones that really stood out. So with that said, we want to thank everyone to showing up today, to being part of this amazing conversation.
Make sure you tune back in next week.
Tune in back next week with another amazing guest. But we also want to make sure that you check us out at ASQempowerment.com. And always remember to
lead your life, shape
your culture, and begin within. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the ASQ Podcast. Remember to lead your life, shape your culture, begin within. Visit us at ASQempowerment.com and join the movement.